We have seen the US dollar skyrocket this past week, and the real question is, why are we seeing such strength in the dollar? You can say it's fundamentals or whatever, that's fine. How I view it is we reacted beautifully again for the second time off of our daily area of demand that you can see on the chart right now. This is a zone I've had on my charts from back in March. You can go back and watch the previous forecast to confirm that I was calling the move from this zone many times now. I don't really like to trade at tested zones, especially when supply and demand trading. Tested zones are usually a no-no, but why did this zone work twice? The reason that this zone has worked twice is because of the higher time frames. On the weekly chart, we can see right now we have the green zone. That is a weekly area of demand. More importantly, the dotted lines is monthly demand. So basically, the reason that daily demand zone held twice is the fact that we are in macro demand right now on the dollar. And that is why we have seen a clear break of the daily downward trend line as well on the US dollar. So as far as predicting what could take place on the US dollar this upcoming week, we have to look at the 4-hour chart here. You can see we had a 4-hour trend line here. It's becoming very irrelevant though. If we throw a channel tool on this trend line, you can see we are so overextended. We are well above the top end of that channel. Pretty much non-existent channel at this point. So it's not really a valid trend line anymore. We are very overextended. We could expect to see some sort of drop just based off of the fact that it is overextended, and hopefully we can create a big enough valley there and break a higher high. Then we will have an updated trend line, and that will signal a lot of strength in the US dollar. We have to go with the higher time frames. Like I said, higher time frame zones are in control. The ultimate bullish sign to suggest we will be pushing up to that weekly supply up at 103.06 on the DXY would be, going back to the daily chart, would be some sort of move up like this and creating a daily upward trend line. That is going to be the ultimate bullish sign. But for this week, I'm expecting to see a little bit of a drop in the US dollar based off of the fact that we are so overextended. But I do predict that this rally will continue based on the higher time frame demand zones in control. Onto the forecast for the euro US dollar. So unlike on the DXY, the inverse, we don't have that daily upward trend line, but on the euro chart, we actually have a daily downward trend line and a daily downward trend. So that's pretty significant in my opinion. If we throw a channel tool on this euro daily downward trend line, give me a second. We are pretty overextended. We are reaching the lower end of the channel. So wouldn't surprise me to push back up towards a 50% mark this upcoming week on the euro. But at the end of the day, if we continue to fall, there's really nothing here that's going to hold up price in my opinion. All the daily demand zones down here are pretty much tested. This one tested. You can go back and confirm that I had this zone on my chart as well, just saying. But that I just don't really see a whole lot that could really hold up price on the weekly time frame. I mean, look at the profit margin down to this weekly zone, and that's going to be a great dip buying opportunity. I'll be very bullish on the euro if we contact that weekly zone. So we'll talk about that another time. But if we do continue to fall, I mean, at minimum, we could easily be targeting this liquidity here on the weekly time frame. So we easily could be pushing towards this liquidity, breaking that low there. That is at about 1.14. So that's where we could be headed long term. As far as the 4-hour time frame goes, you guys know we caught that beautiful trading setup off of that 4-hour demand zone. I was pointing out this zone and this zone, and good news is we are pushing close to this zone right now. We are very close to that zone. So if you are bullish on the euro, I don't think we're going to get a crazy big move. I just want to make that very clear. I'm not saying that this zone is going to be good for a massive move like this, but I mean, look at the zone. The basing is good, nice tight one single candle basing, explosive move away. I definitely think we will see at minimum hesitation off the zone, 1-to-1 move, maybe a 2-to-1 move. Something like this is very, very possible on the euro. So if you're bullish, that is our demand zone there on the euro US dollar. We could be shorting as well. We have a couple of options. So if you are bearish, this is how I would be viewing it. We have a 1-hour downward trend line. That shows that we are very overextended. We are below the channel, or sorry, below the lower end of that channel. So if you want to short on a 5-minute chart, we want to wait for above the 50% mark. And as long as this trend line is holding anywhere in this area, 5-minute time frame shorts are going to be good. And if you are a swing trader, really the only setup I'm seeing is above here on the 1 hour chart, you can see a nice drop, base drop at 117. So if we do get a pullback up to there, that will be our pullback entry for a short trade on the euro US dollar. All right, moving on to the forecast for gold. The big question is, will we break that low or will we be breaking that high? We are clearly just sitting in the middle right now. Very difficult to predict what's going to be taking place on gold. Even on the daily chart here, I just don't really see a whole lot of evidence to suggest what we should be doing. I don't know. I'm just not really seeing it, to be honest, the clear direction. As far as the 4 hour chart goes, you guys know we had this 4 hour downward trend line that created a demand zone, and that was a great dip buying opportunity. Unfortunately, depending on where your stop loss was, that was a losing trade. So as much as I like to point out, all the winners and all the predictions we're making on this channel every week, obviously we take some losses as well. So just trying to be fully transparent here on my channel. Hopefully you guys appreciate that. But when we broke this demand zone, we created a pretty mediocre 4 hour supply at 46.04, very hidden zone. A lot of people probably don't think that that's supply, but it's fine. I've been trading for 6 years. I understand the strategy pretty well. I definitely think we could see a decent move off of the zone, 1-to-1, maybe a 2-to-1 move. Again, I've been saying this for so long on gold in these market conditions. It's aggressive trade management all around. So this trade should have been a 1-to-1, maybe a 2-to-1 aggressive trade management for the long side. Same goes for the short supply zone here. 1-to-1 aggressive trade management. Move your stop loss to break even. Bump stop loss up with price if price does go in your favor. If we break that supply, any demand there, that will be our long entry on gold. So all going to revolve around that 4 hour supply zone right now on gold. And it's not the best zone I've ever seen. The demand zone was much better. So you want to be a little bit careful with that one. Like I said, aggressive trade management definitely needed on gold. All right, moving on to the forecast for the S&P 500. You can see on the weekly chart, we were pretty overextended. I mean, very nice rally. I just wanted to throw the channel tool on this to see where exactly we are. We are sitting above the 50% mark here, and I like to use these channel tools to really see where price is going. It's just the tool that I use. I know everybody has their own tool. I'm just saying this is my tool. We are above the 50% mark, which means, we are a little overextended, but we've seen price really, even the previous channel, we've seen it really go up. So we easily could be seeing even more strength on the S&P 500. We equally could be going down. We're going to have to use the lower time frames to determine where it's going, but I'm just saying we easily could push up another decent chunk here on the S&P to really test the upper end of that channel. I mean, the daily chart shows we are very, very overextended, going up in almost a 90-degree angle. On the 4 hour chart here, clearly breaking below this trend line right now. So that could be evidence to suggest we could be going lower. A break of the trend line is definitely a bearish sign. A break of the trend line plus a new trend to the downside, that's a pretty bearish sign. So I'm not going to be super bearish on the S&P unless we can get something like that. And again, I'll have that trend line for the members on my chart link, but I don't really see that right now. It is still holding technically. We have to be mindful of fake outs as well. So for next week, if we break below this low here, that's going to be a significant sign, and that could be suggesting we could be getting lower lows formed and some sort of 4 hour trend line to the downside. But if you are bullish, as long as this trend line's holding, you could justify 15-minute time frame longs, and it is technically still holding as we speak. So this is the trend line. If you want to copy it on your charts from here to here, that is the properly drawn trend line, guys. So as far as trading it goes now on the 1 hour chart, couple of zones failed here, guys. Just being honest and transparent. Two zones failed. This one was actually not a trade. It was drawn after the fact. But both zones here failed pretty miserably, kind of surprising. So definitely a weak sign. And again, I'm trying to be transparent here on my channel. Hopefully you guys appreciate that. If you do, hit that like button and subscribe if you want to catch these forecasts every single week, because again, this past week wasn't the best, I will admit, but the week before that was amazing. And just a reminder, I mean, two zones failed here, but just a reminder of this trade here. And you can go back 2 weeks ago, check out this trade I called out. Insane trade. Hell, I mean, I'm not going to even get in detail here, just absolutely crazy, but we're going to take losses as well. At this point, we are pulling back into this 1 hour demand zone that's already tested. So not a zone that I'm personally looking to trade. As far as a supply zone goes above, we actually have a zone here that's, I'm drawing it after the fact. I'm not saying that was a trade. It was not. But we're going to be mindful of that zone. If we do pull back up to it, if we can remove that supply there, any demand there would be actually a pretty good long setup. So that's why I'm going to keep this zone on my charts right there. I want to see what removes that zone. And if it's a good zone that removes it, then we could look for longs. If we push down here, if we break this proven area of demand, any supply there would be a decent potential trading setup to the downside. But again, one of my only rules for not shorting or long is not shorting the S&P 500 or any indexes. I don't short. If I was going to take a short trade, if we do get this price action, I would be aggressive with trade management because, again, aggressive with trade management for shorts, non-aggressive with trade management for longs. And that paid off beautifully here from that trade down below. So really right now, kind of ping-ponging, no real fresh zones. But if we do remove that supply and there's a demand zone, that's our long trade. If we remove this demand and there's a supply zone there, that's our short trade. All right, moving on to the forecast for the USDJPY. This is a very, very tricky one. The higher time frames are very clear, though. We have weekly trends to the upside, weekly trend line beautifully held here. On the daily time frame, we had a daily demand zone hold here as well. I'm not going to get into detail why that, I'm not considering that removed, but it is looking pretty strong right now as we are continuing to go up. The next thing we want to see is a break of this high here. And then obviously that supply as well. If we can get a nice daily demand zone there, that'd be great. But I'll be honest with you guys, the USDJPY right now, not really too tradable. 4-hour chart, we're just, it's looking strong. And again, I want to make it very clear, if you're going to trade this at all, we have to go with the higher time frames, which is telling me to look for longs. So it's really longs all the way, however you trade. I'm personally just not seeing any setups. There's nothing here. There's no demand formed here. Really crazy, weird wicks that are more evident on the 1-hour chart. I'll show you guys here in a second. The only zone I'm seeing is this 4-hour supply at 160.20, and it's really not a great, the move away is very good, but it was created from an emotional spike. So we have to be careful of that. I think we could see this zone break pretty easily, but if you want to trade it, the only short trade I'm seeing is at this supply zone right now. That is literally it. Aggressive trade management definitely needed off of the zone for 2 reasons. 1, higher time frame trends are up. 2, it was created from an emotional spike. So it's not the greatest area of supply, but that is really the supplies that I'm seeing for potential short trades. As far as long trades go, we have trends to the upside here, but this trend line, I'm not going to have it. It's very difficult to draw trend lines when we get these weird, crazy wicks like this. So very, very weird price action here. When I've been doing the daily market breakdown videos for the Dime members this past week, I've been skipping, pretty much opening the end chart like this and be like, okay, I wouldn't be trading it, because there's really not that many trading setups unless you want to wait patiently for the supply above. But like I said, aggressive trade management certainly needed off of that supply. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the GBPUSD. Want to do a full top-down analysis here to really show you guys what I'm seeing, which is just sideways price action here on the weekly. We broke the trend line, pushed back up, looked like some sort of fake out. Now we're pushing back down. Really nothing to go off of here on the weekly, and even on the daily, really nothing to go off of here either. I was hoping we can get a pullback up to supply. It could be good for a quick swing trade to the downside, but I just don't see anything here. Nothing that really makes me, jump out of my chair and like, wow, we really got to trade that. Even on the 4-hour chart, we really fell off here aggressively, but when we fall off so aggressively, it's very difficult to trade. Now, based off of my chain analysis, I don't have any analysis here, unfortunately. I'm not going to change my rules just for the sake of having a zone. I get that, maybe you see this explosive move here. That's fine. I'm just not going to change my rules for the sake of making a video. That's why I'm trying to be as honest as possible here. Not really seeing a whole lot, if I am being honest. On the 1-hour chart, we have a 1-hour trend line to the downside at least. So if you are a day trader, this is our 1-hour trend line guide for shorts on like a 5-minute chart or even a 1-minute time frame as well. You can see we are pretty overextended though, as we are sitting below the bottom end of that channel. So if you do want a short trade on a 5-minute chart, you can, as long as this trend line's holding. But I want to be doing it above the 50% mark. Somewhere in here is the sweet spot for 5-minute time frame shorts, guys. So I'd be a little bit patient here. Don't want to chase price. Don't want to be catching a falling knife either for longs. Just wait for a pullback near the trend line, and then you can continue to day trade short. There is a supply zone over here as well, 1.35. So that will be our supply zone for a quick short trade. It's kind of an older zone now. Not really any higher time frame trends. So aggressive trade management definitely going to be needed off of a supply zone like that on the British pound. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the USD CAD. Another reaction off of our weekly zones. So not surprised to see a move up. We have a couple supply zones above, so I think it's going to be a bumpy ride. Let's say we do we break both these supply zones. I don't think it's going to happen like this unless it's a crazy world event. But I think that it'll be a bumpy ride here. But we could definitely see some moves to the downside off of these areas of supply. On the 4-hour chart here, what a trade from our 4-hour demand zone. I was calling out both of these 4-hour demand zones in last week's weekly Forex forecast. Go back, check it yourself. That's the beautiful thing about YouTube. No fake, I don't have any fake PNL, no Lambos here on my channel. Literally just calling out these trades before they take place. And obviously, again, we have some losses as well. And again, this is the kind of thing we talk about in the membership, how to actually identify these zones with our chain analysis. You can see zone removed, trend line removed. That's why we have 2 zones. And that's the chain analysis that we discuss in the Sunday Zoom meetings. If you want to trade alongside myself and the members, join the Diamond membership, where you will have access to the 38-page supply and demand zone PDF, which will be your complete trading guide, the daily market breakdown videos, which are forecasts that I release every single night for the members to trade alongside myself, step-by-step video lessons A to Z, covering everything you need to know on supply and demand trading, the Sunday strategy Zoom session, where members submit homework, and it's an interactive 1-hour call where we go over all of your homework and every trading related question, private access to myself inside of our private Discord group where I answer all of your trading related questions, and finally the Sunday live stream forecast where we break down over 30 markets together. And it's not just me. Here are some of the members and some of their trades they've been taking lately, absolutely killing it. And we also have some amazing reviews from some of the past members sharing their experience within the group. So if you're ready to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership today. Links in the description down below. So this trade has played out. If we throw a channel tool on this trend, we are very overextended. We've been well above the top end of that channel for quite a bit now. So if you want to continue to day trade long on a 15-minute chart, we definitely want to wait for a pullback more towards the trend line. That is preferred for day trading long on a 15-minute time frame. Even if we break the trend line, that's fine. We have that other demand zone down below. It's kind of old now. So if we do contact the zone, I would be aggressive with trade management off of the zone. I think a 1-to-1, maybe a 1-to-2 trade off that zone is possible, but clearly the big move happened off of that zone, which I kind of thought it would be the opposite, right? Just because we got a move from here to here doesn't mean you're catching the entire trade. I personally thought we would only see a small move and the bigger move would happen off the zone down below. It's a little bit older now, so I think aggressive trade management would be preferred off of that zone. But hopefully you guys are paying attention to these forecasts. I know some of the members got involved in this trade to the upside in the Discord group, and very happy for them. Beautiful trading setup here on the USDCAD, and hopefully we can get another one this upcoming week. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. Weekly trend and trend line looking very strong. Looks like we're just getting somewhat of a healthy pullback maybe towards that weekly trend line. Daily chart, not really seeing too much. 1-hour chart, not too much. All really going to revolve around this 4-hour time frame here. So we had a 4-hour trend line to the upside. The trend line was broke. We really just based out here for a bit. Trend line was broke by this supply. Very mediocre supply, just barely qualifies. Me personally, again, I don't really get into detail on my personal setups because, again, I'm not trying to make it signals or anything, but I will be avoiding this trade. The move away is so mediocre at best. No wicks here. That's pretty much why it's a zone, but not going to get into detail. Not my favorite zone. If you look at the demand zone down below, look at the difference between, this move away and that move away, right? This one just barely qualifies based off of my trading situations, and this zone here, absolutely amazing. So if you want to trade on the Aussie, if you're bearish, this is our supply zone for a short trade. Again, I'd be aggressive with trade management here. The trends are to the upside, so we want to be aggressive with trade management. The zone is mediocre at best, just barely qualifies. So I'm thinking a 1-to-1 here. The best scenario is if you're a day trader and you trade like the 15 or the 5-minute, wait for the zone to be hit and then look for confirmation on these time frames, which means look for little day trades in there off of little supply zones that are formed. And then if we do really get a deep pullback this week, I don't know if we can get all the way here, but that's our demand zone for a pullback entry to the long side on the Aussie. And I mean, it's a great zone, great move away. I would like to see another reaction off of this support, proving there are stop losses here. And that'd be a great trading setup there on the Aussie. So for now, all going to revolve around that 4-hour supply and that 4-hour area demand. Just be careful with this one, guys. The best case scenario would be to see this supply removed and then a good high quality demand zone similar to that one down below formed for a potential long trade. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the USD Swiss. And if you guys need help with trading psychology, if you struggle with taking losses, struggle with, over trading, whatever, check out my Stoic Trading Psychology podcast. It is available anywhere you guys watch your podcast or listen to your podcast. I have a YouTube channel for it as well. Check it out. Definitely going to help you with your trading psychology, which is a huge aspect of trading. As far as the daily chart goes here on the USD Swiss, our trend line is drawn from here to here. This is a reaction. Well, not really a reaction yet, but we are currently reacting off of the trend line. So this is the big test to see if this downward trend line could break. It broke on the DXY, so we are anticipating it will be breaking here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a pullback down to this zone, but on the daily chart. But the good news is we clearly confirmed there's some sort of support level here with potential stop losses down below. So if we do get the pullback down to the zone, it's a high probability area we do see a move off of the zone. Just saying. But really no evidence of getting that pullback just yet. As far as trading it goes now, we have a 1-hour trend line to the upside. We have an older 1-hour supply we're going to ignore. We have a 1-hour trend line to the upside. Let's throw a channel tool on this trend line to take a look. You can see that this trend line is pretty overextended. We're not above the channel like on some of the other pairs, but if we do get a pullback towards a 50% mark or lower, that is going to be our guide for 5-minute time frame long. So be patient, wait for below the 50% mark, watch this trend line, and as long as that's holding, day trading longs on a 5-minute chart are going to be pretty high odds in my opinion, and profit margin is easily all the way up to this 4-hour supply at 0.79. That's our supply zone for a potential short trade as well. So if you are looking for day trading longs, I would look to wrap up the trade when we contact the supply. I think that this supply will break. I think the bigger move will happen off of these supplies and above. That's where I think we could see that 3-to-1 move, or maybe even more. But this supply zone, again, if you're going to get in long on day trading timeframes, you want to look to wrap up the trade when we hit this supply, because I think we will see a 1-to-1 move off the zone before we end up breaking it. So there is a little bit of money to be made here. We just want to be aggressive with trade management if you do decide to short off of that supply. And then again, I think that supply zone above at 0.797 is the better and preferred supply zone for a short trade on the USD Swiss. I know it can be a little bit confusing, guys, because I do a lot of time frames and it's long and shorts, because I try to give the options for if you're bullish, this is what I'd be doing. If you're bearish, this is what I would be doing. I know it can be confusing, so if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. I literally respond to every single comment that I see. Alrighty, on to crude oil. Weekly chart, nothing. Daily chart, nothing. We are just going sideways. Really nothing to go off of here. We have a couple of options here for trading, and no matter what you do, if you are bullish, if you are bearish, if you're longing or shorting here on oil, you want to be aggressive with trade management due to these market conditions. As far as the 1-hour trend line goes, we are pretty overextended as we are above the 50% mark. So if you want to get in long on a 5-minute chart, be patient, wait for below the 50% mark, and as long as this trend line is holding anywhere in this area, 5-minute time frame longs are going to be good on crude oil. Profit margin is all the way up to target this liquidity. The liquidity is at about 112, so that's where I think we could be headed. So once we contact this liquidity, might be a good time to bump up your stop on your longs if you are day trading long with that 1-hour trend line like I think we could be doing. And then once we hit this supply, that is our supply zone for a short trade at 114.78. Pretty much the same thing as last week on oil, guys. Nothing really has changed too much. But again, no matter what you do, aggressive trade management on oil. You don't want to be caught in some of these crazy moves when you're already in the money and you're in the profit or even close to a loss as well. All right, moving on to Bitcoins. Last but certainly not least, reminder, monthly demand's in control. That's why these are the dotted lines. That's monthly demand. That is why we have seen Bitcoin rally up. I think we are easily headed to either one of these supply zones. I mean, obviously this one first at 89,380. A little bit of a hiccup here now. And why are we getting that hiccup to the downside? Well, because we have our daily supply that is in control. Go back, confirm that I've had these zones on my charts. Please do it. 82,154. That's our supply. We are seeing a move off of. I think this will be short-lived. I'm not saying we're going to get a massive move off of the zone. I think it will end up breaking, but clearly we are pausing at this area of supply. As far as trading Bitcoin goes now, on the 4-hour chart here, we actually have 4-hour downward trend. I'm going to take a look to see if we have a trend line. We actually do. Not my favorite trend line, but we have a trend line with this 4-hour downward trend. So definitely a bearish sign on Bitcoin here, but obviously we're sitting at the low. We could see somewhat of a rally, and we actually got a beautiful trade off of this 1-hour zone back here. So we are actually back into this demand zone again. But go back, watch last week's weekly Forex forecast. I was talking about this 1-hour zone, and what a trade from that zone. You can see on the screen right now, that is from last week's weekly Forex forecast, guys. So if you're not subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. You're getting these free call outs. Hit that subscribe button. That's it. Anyways, we are back in for a third test because we got the initial test, second test, third test of the zone. I'm expecting it to break. What we could be seeing is maybe a pullback up to the supply. And then full transparency, we had the zone on our chart as well. Beautiful move away, and that zone was a fail. But again, full transparency here on my channel. So back in for a third test off of this demand zone. It could be that we are pulling back up to this supply. So for now on Bitcoin, all going to revolve around this area of supply. If we pull back up to it, that's our supply zone for a short trade at 80,372. If we break it, any demand there is going to be a very nice long trade on Bitcoin. If you guys want access to my full-length forecast, join the Diamond membership where you will have access to that, as well as my daily market forecast, the full course supply and demand PDF, and much, much more. Make sure you guys subscribe so you can catch next week's forecast as well. And I always appreciate a like. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.